On this episode of the Procedurally Generated Show, Ethan renews his PlayStation Plus account, and Legend says Tony finds his cadence. We talk about all of this week's biggest news and answer your questions. Howdy, everybody. Welcome to the Procedurally Generated Show. I'm your host, Tony, and joining me this week, I've got Ethan.
Hey, Tony.
What's going on, sir? E3 is over.
It's over. The news is all out. We can relax.
Go to bed.
I mean, just the stuff we covered itself, or we covered ourselves for it. Oh, man. That took a lot more work than I thought it would.
And we didn't hit all of it. There's still a lot of stuff that we didn't talk about.
And there's the stuff that came out after the event too.
That is true, because things did come out afterwards. But we might talk about some of that stuff. We might not. It'll all get covered at some point. Shannon is off going to concerts this week, so
yeah, he's watching Kenny G or something. I don't know.
Yeah, something like that.
I think it was supposed to be Weird Al.
Kenny G with an accordion. That's what he was watching.
I told him pics or it didn't happen, so he sent me a picture. I was like, oh, that could be Kenny G.
It could have been Eminem. I don't know. I couldn't see anybody down there on the stage. So, well, we're not here to talk about what Shannon's doing, because only Shannon can talk about what Shannon's doing.
I mean, we can talk about it. He's not here to defend himself.
That is true. But we'll let him come back next week and defend himself.
He better tell us all about it.
Every detail.
Every detail.
I want to see the full set list for what Weird Al played. I want to know what happened. What have you been playing this week?
I have not played the accordion.
No, I know what you've been playing, because I played a little bit of it too.
I played Bloodstained, Ritual of the Night.
That game is finally out, except for Switch owners.
They will have it in hand
very soon.
Very soon, like, what?
By the time they're listening to this show, it will be out.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It comes out on Tuesday.
Yep.
Good for you guys. Yay.
So everything I just said is wrong, because even if you own a Switch, you can have the game at this point. So,
yeah.
Bloodstained Ritual of the Night. What is this game?
This is the new Castlevania by the people that make Castlevania what Castlevania is.
Konami?
Not Konami. People they fired.
Oh, yeah.
It's like saying the people who make Metal Gear making not Metal Gear.
Or the people making Mega Man not making Mega Man.
We don't talk about that one.
Yeah, that was not a good game.
So, Iga finally got his game to the public's hands.
It's been, what, 4 years since this game was announced?
It's been a good hot minute on this one.
It has. Yeah, I think the Kickstarter, was it Kickstarter or Indiegogo? I don't remember.
Kickstarter.
Was back in 2015.
Sounds about right. I mean, I could look it up, but man.
So how many copies of this game do you own at this point?
Just the 2.
Okay.
I got my physical copy in for PS4, and then I turned around and bought a discounted Steam version.
What about an Epic Games version?
No.
Oh, okay.
Because, 1, I wasn't given the choice, and 2, Green Man Gaming is pretty awesome with their discounts.
Oh, yeah?
Plug. No, I mean, they actually are pretty good with discounts, like when games are just coming out. It's like, hey, here, get it for 20% off, brand new. It's like, the game comes out tomorrow or today. How is this possible? So, that's kind of been helping build my Steam library lately. But back to Bloodstain, because that's what we're trying to talk about, right?
I think so.
So this is the actual game. It's not the 8-bit retro Curse of the Moon, or as the epic typo I gave Tony, Curse of the Moo.
Which we both want to play.
That would be such a fun game. It's just the secret cow level from Diablo all over again.
That needs to be DLC for this.
Oh man.
Like, let me call Iga and see if he can get on that.
If that became a thing, I would just if that became fan art, I would just be like extremely happy with
All
that.
right, you keep talking. I'm gonna look it up.
If it became fan art, I would have a poster made just so I could have it framed and put on my wall.
You'd have it right next to the Curse of the Moon poster.
I don't have a curse. I don't have a real one, so okay. Well, anyway, so yeah, game's out. It's great. It is a little buggy right now. I just some unforeseen problems popping up here and there since it's actually in the public now. But they're Iga, whatever. They're working on it. They're getting it fixed. Like there's been definitely quality of life improvements from the 1.0 version to the 1.01 and then over to the 1.02. But I mean, we're still getting a few problems here and there.
So you have played this back when it was in like beta and
Oh gosh, the betas. It is it it looks like the game, but the game looks so much better now,
yeah.
and it still feels about the same to me. So I don't have much of an opinion as to how it plays. I mean, compared to the demo, but it's really nice being able to see something going from concept art to this, and it just maintains a better look as it progresses.
Yeah.
Unlike other games that I said we shall not name, where the concept art is what people actually wanted for the game. Mighty number 9.
Hey, we did eventually get a good not Mega Man game out of the whole Mighty Number 9 thing. With the Mighty Gunvolt Burst is a great game.
Yeah, but that means you also don't need to play as Mighty Number 9 on there.
You don't.
Because there's better characters. Especially from games that had not come out in the US at that point either. And we keep getting way away from Bloodstained Ritual of the Night and Curse of the Moo.
Which, by the way, I have not found anything for Curse of the Moon. So,
Did you mean Curse of the Moon? Google says.
No, I did not.
So
somebody needs to make that.
So I think it's next month we get access to the backer content on there, so that's going to be great.
What do the backers get that the general public doesn't?
They get instant access to all the DLC stuff.
Okay.
General public gets access to all that for free as well, but they have to earn it.
Okay, in game.
In game, it is not. You don't need to pay for it because it should already be put into the game via some update stuff that they will do at some point.
Okay.
So that's going to include, I think, like a boss rush mode or something. I don't know what all it's going to include, but should be some good stuff in there. I know Miriam, the character you play as, she gets like some different outfits, and so that'll be nice.
Speaking of that, there is so much. I've played the game for probably an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes.
Have you even pressed start?
Well, yeah, I've seen the title screen. So, which was cool. I like that cold open, and then the late title card was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But there is so much, even in that first hour that they stack on top of you with systems and then other systems and
It,
outfits. And
it's just kind of go with the flow, just play the game, you'll figure it out eventually.
I'm most of this stuff I'll forget about and I'll never use. Uh,
Yeah, I kind of feel bad. I got mad at Stuart for telling me what I needed to do because I was completely lost.
yeah,
And he's like, well, go do this thing and get that ability, and then you can do this. I was like, but that thing, I've already gotten an ability from them. That's not what I get. And so I had to go and read what I got. And it's like, oh, that's how it works.
yeah. The one thing I can say that I wish I had, and maybe it's in there and I just haven't seen it, is an ability to quick swap your weapons. Um,
There, I know there's like a weird skill thing you get where you get like a quick option deal, but I don't know. I haven't used it. Probably should so I can like do that with weapons because that would make perfect sense.
because there have been a couple of times where I've gone back and forth between a gun, which is the musketoon, is the
Oh
gun that I
yes,
have in
yes.
it, and I love that weapon. But there've been a few times where I've had to use a whip or a claymore, and just having to go into the menu and switch those weapons and then get back out.
Yeah,
It gets
you
really
you.
it's
I think that's what that you get uh like a 8 slots where you can put certain things into eventually for a quick swap thing where you just hold I think L2 and you just right right stick over what you need on there. I
okay.
think that's what that's going to be used for. I haven't really messed with it since it's like I'll pick a weapon and stick with it until it stops doing what I need it to do.
Mhm.
And I'm kind of at that point for like the fourth time in this game specifically.
And then there's other things that I like the sheer amount of combat abilities that you have. You not only have, like in Castlevania's past, a prime weapon and a sub weapon, which you do have, but then you've also got uh, magic, which is tied to its own button. The right stick aims, you know,
Yeah,
your magic abilities, and then you've got Street Fighter level special moves with different weapons that you can do, where you're doing quarter circles and half circles, and then
yes.
hitting the attack button. And there's so much. They give you so many different options on how to attack combat situations in this game.
It's I would say it's like some kind of awesome amalgamation of Castlevania Order of Ecclesia, if I'm saying that right, I don't know, and Portrait of Ruin.
Okay.
Because I mean, Portrait of Ruin, you could switch between two characters, so and they both had their own different abilities, and then
Mhm.
the order of whatever, you could equip different abilities as well as glyphs, which this game kind of follows that same pattern there, but instead of having two people to swap between as well, you're just the one person. So it kind of makes sense on that one, and you're so that way you're going from like your melee abilities and then switching over to magic, and then you have like your stat buffs, and then your familiar that follows you around, and then your other two abilities that you just happen to be able to use at random or whatever.
Like, I'm almost worried that by the time we're done, there's just going to be too much going on. Um, I know a lot. Everybody that I've seen, the general consensus of the game so far is that it is fantastic. It feels like a natural progression to the Castlevania
Mm-hmm.
series. Um, but I do have that worry in the back of my mind that there's just going to be so much that it is overwhelming. Um,
After you spend a little bit of time with it, getting adjusted to it, it doesn't expand beyond what you already have. It's
okay,
okay. I have the 5 shard slots here. I can put uh, an ability here that I use with triangle or whatever, and then you have your other one where it's okay. This is the one where I can aim and then press this button and do that. Then you have like a yellow one that's a constant buff of some form, and then you have your special, which will be your R1, and then your familiar that follows you
okay.
around. So I mean, it doesn't get any more difficult than that, and you get various abilities. And it's like, okay, I wonder if I can use this ability in this area and see what happens. Maybe it'll unlock something, and that's how progression works in a few of the areas of the game.
Mhm. So yeah, I think just from the time that I've played the game, that and looking at people's opinions online, this is definitely the beginning. This and with Curse of the Moon, you now have sort of two paths that you can take this franchise, and I think this is very much going to fill that and maybe take the place of Castlevania for a lot of people.
It's doing a really good job of doing that right now. I mean, there's not much more I could ask for on this game, and I mean, other than getting access to what we paid for,
Mhm.
but it's pretty solid. It's a pretty solid game, and it's got a lot going on there at points.
Yeah. Like I see the Bloodstained franchise being something that we're going to see a lot of releases for, and people are going to have that fondness for this that they do for Castlevania.
Oh man, speaking of fondness, I ran into what's the character's name? Zangetsu in the
Yeah.
game. He's an early boss, so get over it if you're mad about spoilers. But he's voiced by David Hayter, who voices Solid Snake,
Yeah.
and he's doing the voice for that character the same way.
And this game, I don't know how many different cameos there are, but I know with David Hayter, and then pictures everywhere
Oh, those portraits.
of Shovel Knight and backer portraits. Shovel Knight has been to the gym, by the way.
He he is everywhere in the cave section of that game. He is just hanging out, and he can lay down a beating on you, man.
Yeah, I haven't run into him yet, so I haven't seen him personally. But
It's not really him, but I mean,
well,
it's him.
yeah, but,
It's one.
it's Shovel Knight and
It's a
everything but
really
name.
good cameo that you snuck in
Yeah,
there.
yeah. So there you go. What
I,
else about this game are you?
uh, it is kind of easy to get lost on there. There's a few points where you just kind of don't have direction.
Hmm.
Like let's I can say it. I've already beaten the game, quote unquote. Like I've gotten an ending with a game over, and then you don't have much direction after that.
Okay.
And that's what led to me talking to Sterry. He's like, well, you need to go here, and then that's led to story being added on, and so now I'm progressing even more into story on here. So I really love that addition where it's just, well, you've gotten an ending, you can explore more because there's all these places you haven't been, but you can't progress unless you have more abilities. So you
Yeah.
kind of have to figure it out, and once you do, it's more game.
Okay. Hold on just a second. I've got kids screaming. I'll be
Sure.
right back. Uh,
So yeah, what have you been playing, Tony? In
well, I've
this
been
very
playing
awkward silence that we've had before this.
a little bit of Bloodstained Ritual of the Night.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I've heard of this. Good
but
game.
more importantly, well, I don't want to say more importantly. The game I put more time in this week than that uh, review is up on the site.
We have
That
a
would be,
site?
we do, uh, Cadence of Hyrule.
I've never heard of
Uh,
this person.
have you played Crypt of the Necrodancer?
I have not. I don't even own a copy.
You need to remedy that.
Pretty sure I don't even have access to a copy. Let me check Jason's game list.
because that game is fantastic. But
Jason does not own a copy either, therefore I have no access to it.
it's like $3 on the Switch. You should die. You should
Yeah,
buy
that's
it.
$3 I can keep in my wallet.
If I could gift it to you, I'd gift it to you.
No.
It is so good. But Cadence of Hyrule is a spin-off to both Crypt of the Necrodancer and The Legend of Zelda.
I've heard of these games. I heard they're awesome.
They are, and
They got that Ganon guy in there.
it's a mixture that I never thought of. For one thing, indie developers never get to use Nintendo's properties in this way.
Mm-hmm.
So it never even occurred to me that this would be something that would be a reality. But the two games do mesh together so well. It harkens back to A Link to the Past. It takes a lot of visual references from that. The maps look very similar. It's not the same map because it's a randomly generated thing. It changes every time you start a new save file. But that old Super Nintendo NES style of gameplay fits perfectly with the way Crypt of the Necrodancer is made, which is all done based on a grid. You move to the beat of the music, which this soundtrack is the best soundtrack I have heard in a long time.
Awesome stuff.
It is fan-flipping-tastic. They have 25 remixes. They have remixes of 25 Zelda songs that each have two different versions in the game. Because as you're playing, you're moving along to the beat of the music, but once you've cleared out one of the tiles, the screens,
Right.
The music goes from this intense sort of very bassy percussion-driven theme to a much more calm, relaxing sort of version of that same song, and it's seamless. The second the last enemy on the screen dies, the music changes, and you then can move around freely. You don't have to worry about moving to the beat of the music. So if there are puzzles you need to solve, like a heart container up on a hill that you can't reach, but there are blocks that you have to move around, very much like a very traditional Zelda puzzle. You move the blocks around, find the way up to the hill, you get the heart piece, and you move on to the next screen.
It's good to know that they're keeping like Zelda elements in this, like it like that with the puzzles and such.
If you didn't know this was related to Crypt of the Necrodancer at all, I mean, you start the game as Cadence, and then you get the option to play as either Link or Zelda. And within like the first 5 minutes, you get to choose which character you want to play as.
And then the other is left forever sleeping.
No, that's not true.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not. Because you can't finish the game without waking the other character up. As I found out the other day. But
spoiler.
If you didn't realize that this was if waking a character up is a spoiler to the story, I'm sorry.
I've seen Sleeping Beauty. I know where this goes.
Okay. Good point. That is like essential to the plot of that movie. But anyway, if you didn't realize that this was related to Crypt of the Necrodancer, you'd think this is a Zelda game in every way. The enemies are Zelda enemies, so you've got Lynels, you've got Moblins and Bokoblins and Chews and Keeses and Armos Knights and Stalfos and Lizalfos. They're all there.
Hooray!
And they all have their different movement patterns and attack patterns. Some of them move on each beat. Some of them will move every couple of beats. Some of them give you very clear indications that they're about to move. They'll move once you get close to them. And then figuring out how to beat them is sort of a puzzle on its own. Because while you can, for a lot of enemies, just sort of walk into the same square that they're standing in, some of them, because of the way movement happens, may when you're 2 squares away, will be perfectly calm and then the second you jump next to them, they immediately get out their weapon. And if you try to then move into the square that they're in, you get hurt.
Well, I mean,
So,
you don't want to get up in their space like that because it's their
I mean, that is
space.
true. That is true.
You don't
So,
see me trying to move into the square you're in. I mean, we're gonna get into a fist fight then.
we've got a lot of squares between us. So, I think I'm okay for the moment.
Yeah, it's gonna take a long, long loop of that music to get there.
Gosh, how many 3 foot squares are between us?
Oh man, I'm half tempted to look that up.
So yeah, just defeating the enemies becomes a puzzle on its own in that case. And then of course you've got traditional Zelda weapons that you will find scattered throughout the world. It's not like go into a dungeon, um, find the item, use that item to kill the boss in the dungeon. Of which, by the way, there are 4 dungeons in the game.
Only 4.
Um, yeah, there's only 4. Uh, but it's part of the story. Uh, I mean, they could have done 8, but there's not really much of a reason to. I think the game is perfect at the length it is. It takes about 5 or 6 hours to finish the game. Um, but I've lost my train of thought. Where was I going? Uh, and speaking of the bosses, by the way, the whole game is themed around music, which makes perfect sense. The main villain in the game is a guy named Octavo, who has put all of Hyrule into a deep sleep, and he's got 4 of his, basically like generals who are in the world. You have to go defeat those 4 generals before you can then go and fight Octavo. And those bosses are sort of reimagined versions of very popular Zelda bosses like Armos Knights, who are huge, have become Guitar Most Knights or Bass Guitar Most Knights.
Awesome.
I love the stuff. And so their dungeon is sort of themed, the music is themed around their particular instrument. So in the Armos Knight dungeon, the music will be very bass heavy. Or Goma, who is the giant spider
Bug
monster.
thing.
Yeah. Is Go Maracas. And the theme in that dungeon it has a lot of maracas into it, and I won't tell you what the other 2 are. I won't spoil everything, but they're great in their own right.
You ever just miss being able to talk about this stuff like when Shelby's around? He would love the puns on that stuff.
He absolutely would. Um,
By the way, there's 478,720 3-foot squares between us.
okay,
Give or take
yeah,
a few because I'm just using general location between
that
me
is
and you.
that's a lot of loops of the music in that game.
Yep.
So,
With Toll Road.
well, I guess if you're walking, you could go around the toll booth. You don't have to stay on the road. You could just be walking beside it and never have to pay the toll.
Can you legally do that?
I don't see why not. If you're not,
I mean, it's like a private. It's technically a privately owned road, and you have to pay to use it.
Yeah, but if you're not on the road, if you're walking next to the road, which is in many cases
toll road
private land,
just kind of make me mad.
Yeah, back to let's get away from the toll roads and back to the game. Without hesitation, I would tell every single person who is a fan of rhythm games, a fan of The Legend of Zelda, a fan of good games, a fan of music, a fan of retro games. Basically, anybody who owns a Switch needs to own this game because it is wonderful. It's $25, so
25. You were telling me 3 earlier.
that's for the other game.
I know. I'm just trying to mess with you.
If this was only $3, I'd buy like 53 copies and give it out to friends. That's a very specific number, right off the top of my head.
It's very weird. Yes.
So, But yeah, I think Nintendo probably could have gotten away with charging $40 for this, and nobody would have said a word. But it's $25, 5 or 6 hours, just for the first playthrough, and then every time you play the game, it's going to be different because unlike Crypt of the Necrodancer, which every time you die, the dungeons get randomized. With this, every time you start a new save file, it gets randomized. So when you start up a game, it generates an overworld, and that overworld stays in that layout for that entire playthrough.
That's good.
So you can look at the map and you can say, okay, I need to get here, I need to get here, I need to get here, and it's always going to be that way. Um, there are Sheikah slates scattered, or not Sheikah slates, Sheikah stones, sorry, scattered everywhere on the map, and you can use those to fast travel between them.
Shake a slate. So there's iPads laying on the ground everywhere. Got it.
Yeah, no, the Sheikah slates don't exist. The Sheikah stones are there. Um, what else was I going to say? I had something else that was in my head.
Was the co-op?
Yeah, the co-op. So you can play the game single player or as a co-op game. If you play it co-op for the entire playthrough, you can drop in and drop out at will. So if you're playing co-op and then one of you needs to leave, you can just drop out. The other person can keep playing, and then you can come back later and start that co-op again. If you start single player, you can't actually drop in co-op. I don't know why that is.
That is weird.
It only works. So what you should do if you think you're ever going to have that and you want to have someone helping you with that, start the game co-op, but then drop the second player out immediately, so that you don't have to worry about that. But then once you finish the game and you come back and you start a new save file, it completely generates a brand new world. So everything you did in the previous game doesn't matter because you're playing what is essentially a brand new game now. Same bosses, same all that stuff. It's not like it's changing all of that, but the layouts will be completely different. So, Guitar Mose's dungeon could be in the top right corner of the map at one point, and then the next game it's at the completely opposite side of the map, and you won't realize that until you discover that as you play through the game.
Interesting.
So yeah, it is a brilliant game. It was a complete surprise when it was first announced. The whole project started because the developer of Crypt of the Necrodancer actually approached Nintendo about using Zelda characters as a Switch exclusive DLC bundle for Crypt of the Necrodancer. And they ended up liking that so much that they just ended up expanding it into its own separate game, which has become sort of a pseudo sequel to Crypt of the Necrodancer. Um, so, for a developer who is I believe this is their second game ever, being entrusted with one of Nintendo's biggest franchises is huge. But it's something that I think a few years ago would never have happened. There was a point that I think Nintendo would have never let anyone use, like Mario or Zelda or Metroid.
It
or
really
any of
wasn't
those
that long ago when they
big
wouldn't let anyone
franchises.
do that.
I know. But recently, Nintendo has been much more open to at least letting people use the characters for, Nintendo specific content in the game. But this leads me to think that maybe there are other developers out there who could get access to Nintendo IP to create a game. Like I think the fast racing guys should get access to F-Zero, or I don't know who else. That's the first one that always comes to mind. Um, so, but I love this game to death. It is so good.
Just your go-to first thought there.
Well, it's one that I've thought of for a long time. Like I don't care about the F-Zero franchise at all, but I'd be interested in playing a game from those guys because I really like the fast racing series on Wii U and
You
Switch.
just want a new soundtrack from them, really.
That too. That too. And I want Ubisoft to get access to the Star Fox franchise for reals, not just Switch exclusive bits for a different game. Um, I could probably think about some, but yeah. So uh, there you go. Don't hesitate if you're curious about this game at all. If you're on the fence about it, just pick it up because it is a wonderful game.
Do it.
But that is it for me. So let's take a quick break. We will come back and hit a couple news stories. We'll just have a couple of quick little things to talk about in the news. One, I can't believe we missed last week talking about the Nintendo Direct at E3. It completely slipped our minds at the end of the show because it was the very last thing that Nintendo showed, and that was the teaser trailer for the sequel to Breath of the Wild.
Yes, it was.
I don't know how we ended up missing that. I said the show ended with the Smash stuff, and that's not
Mm-hmm.
true because the Zelda stuff came afterwards. It was a quick little, minute long trailer.
About a minute or so. I left it in the actual coverage that we did, just because why not?
Yeah,
To show that it may have been forgotten, but it wasn't totally forgotten.
yeah. So I mean, the internet has been speculating wildly about the trailer, like what is going on. There's some stuff happening. It looks like at one point Ganondorf's corpse is being held up by some weird glowing hand that somehow gets a hold of Link at the same time.
I'm wondering about that hand because that's got to be some kind of mechanic now.
Hmm. I would imagine so. I think that's teasing some new mechanic that's going to happen. Link's going to have some ability that glowy hand either has infected him, like venom, and he can shapeshifter. I don't know. I'm just speculating
The return
wildly.
of fierce deity Link.
That'd be okay. The game definitely looks like it's going to be much darker than Breath of the Wild. It's going to be using a lot of the same assets. I imagine
Well, I mean,
very
yeah, it's a sequel.
the same map. This is very much like an Ocarina of Time Majora's Mask situation where they've taken all of the assets from that first game and built a second game somewhat quickly out of it. And like Majora's Mask, this looks like it's going to be much darker and scarier than Breath of the Wild was.
Yes. I'm hoping that we have like a time gap between last game and this game where like maybe houses didn't exist in this one village, but now they're like it's spread into like a small little cityscape now.
Mhm.
I'm hoping for stuff like that.
I want to see that whole village that you built up
Oh
during Breath
gosh,
of the
yeah,
Wild.
that.
I would love to see that. It's sort of on an island out in the middle of a lake, so there's not a lot of room to expand it, but I'd like to see them do something with that.
They would find
Um,
a way. I mean, we got people from like every race there, and we got the best carpenters ever.
that we do. That we do. Um, so, yeah, and I completely missed the first time through that this corpse thing was Ganondorf. I didn't catch the red hair the first time I was watching the trailer because I was just so in shock that a new Zelda game was being announced. I thought it was just one of those monks that you had encountered in
Oh,
the different.
he's definitely mummified like one of them.
Oh, definitely. He is very mummified, and uh, so it's going to be really interesting to see what they're doing with that story. Did you not kill him the first time, and he somehow survived?
I
Uh,
don't think
or not
I have
survived,
my
but
own little theory on that one.
okay.
Just, I mean, at one point it says something about him. He gave up his humanity,
Hmm.
so that's his physical body there, and what we fought was
Was like the
demon form.
manifestation of his spirit, yeah, and
Yeah, so I mean,
like
he's still a Triforce bearer as well. So
mhm. Yeah, the Ganon we fought in Breath of the Wild was very much made up of that sort of
It was Demon Ganon. Let's
calamity.
just go with that.
Uh,
Calamity, demon
so
form, whatever.
yeah,
Giant pig.
so it's entirely possible that his body was under like Hyrule Castle the entire time. Uh, so it's going to be really interesting. I'm very, very keen on playing a scary game in the Breath of the Wild world.
If
There's a
anyone's interested in
lot.
where I came up with this idea, if you ever played The Secret of Monkey Island and see Ghost Pirate LeChuck becomes Zombie LeChuck, yeah, Zombie LeChuck, and then he comes back a third time as Demon LeChuck.
Mhm.
So, so you have these different forms. That's where I kind of just built upon this idea that I had.
Mhm.
Because now we
The
have
trailer.
we have a body that was being held down by a ghostly hand. So
Yeah, and the trailer puts a lot of sort of focus on Link and Zelda being there together. It's definitely takes place after Breath of the Wild. I had thought maybe they were going to do like a prequel that showed the events that happened 100 years before Breath of the Wild, um, which I guess could still be possible. But Zelda has much shorter hair in this, so a lot of people think this takes place afterwards. She's cut her hair for whatever reason.
they're thinking she cut her hair so that way she could be a playable character and do battle. Is what current speculation around the internet is on that.
Yeah,
And if you
and a
remember when
lot.
Breath of the Wild came out, people were like, "Oh, we could probably play as a female person or Zelda now." It's like,
Yeah, I would
you're
be.
gonna have that speculation every time a new Legend of Zelda
That's
game
true.
comes
That's
out.
true. And this is either going to be one where you can play as Link or Zelda, or it could possibly be a co-op game. Um,
I'm okay with that.
like I would be perfectly okay with either scenario. Uh, I don't want them to, replace Link with Zelda completely. I would be okay if they did a Zelda-focused game. Um, but I've always liked the idea of playing as Zelda because she's very much a character who I think could be the starring character in one of these games. Um,
Super
but I
Princess
think,
Zelda. That's what we need.
man, I want another Super Princess Peach so bad. That game was so
I
much
still
fun.
haven't played the first one. Or
It was
I still haven't played the
so
one.
much fun. Um, but I think there's definitely these two story is going to be very much intertwined in this game. Whether it's a co-op game or they're just together through the entire story, I think it's going to focus very much on those two together for the entirety of the game. Uh, but we are probably a couple years from that game being out. It's definitely not going to be this year. It could be the big holiday game next year.
I kind of hope it carries like save data progress over in some fashion. So
That would be cool.
it's like okay, this is your world. This is what you progressed. These people will remember you doing this and that.
That
That
would be really cool
that
if
would
that
be
happened.
awesome.
Uh, so we will see. I imagine we're probably not going to hear a lot about this until maybe E3 next year. Uh, Maybe late this year, early next year, but I think E3 is the most likely. Um, and then so they make that's going to be the big focus at E3, and then they say it comes out in holiday or it comes out early 2021. We shall see.
Yep.
One game that people will be able to get their hands on fairly soon, we're about 3 weeks away from, is a new Dr. Mario game, which just sort of stealth dropped after a couple days after E3. Uh,
Stealth dropped right to our emails.
exactly. It's a mobile game, so don't get your hopes up. It's not a Switch game. It's not anything like that. It's Dr. Mario. It's called Dr. Mario World. It's coming
It's a battle
to.
royale, and you will
No,
fight the
they didn't go
viruses
the
of
Tetris.
Earth.
They didn't go the Tetris 99 route with Dr. Mario.
But if they did, man, if they did,
I'd be okay with that.
yeah, yeah.
But
I probably
Nintendo
would
is the
never touch
publisher of
it.
Tetris. I don't think they do both. But this is
There's
Dr.
nothing
Mario
stopping them
World.
from doing both, though.
That's true. That's true. There will be more playable characters than just Dr. Mario and Dr. Luigi this time around, though.
Dr. Peach, Dr. Daisy, Dr. Wario, Dr. Waluigi,
I don't think they're going to go that crazy.
Dr.
Dr.
Bowser,
Peach,
Dr. Kamek.
Dr. Peach is one that they've shown off. Dr. Toad is another. So you
I'd
can
rather
have
it just be Nurse Toad.
you can have penicillin as your doctor. Uh, and Bowser was also shown off. So Dr. Bowser is a
Oh,
thing.
okay. The joke is no longer that much of a joke.
So Bowser was not able to take over Nintendo last week like he had hoped. So he just went to medical school this week and got his medical degree that quick. Um, if you go over to the game's official website, they have been releasing these little short videos with the viruses in the game that have been some of them have been kind of funny. Little short videos promoting the game. You can also pre-register now for the game, so if you want to get a notification the second the game is available for download on whichever device you use, either an iPhone or Android device, you can get that. You can sign up for that right now. But I'll be playing this, and I'm hoping that I can convince my wife to play that because she loves Dr. Mario. Because there will be online multiplayer matches, single player stuff. It is a free to play game, so you'll be able to download it for free, and then there'll be transactions in the game. There's not a ton of information that I've seen.
Yeah, it's. I mean, this is what like just some pre-beta stuff or something, isn't it?
Yeah. But if you know Dr. Mario, you know what to expect. It's going to have that, very familiar gameplay for the most part, with some new modes that will be available in the game. But that will be out on July 10th for free on iOS and Android. But that was it. That was it for the news. So we just wanted to make sure we had told everybody about Zelda because we had forgotten it last week. And then this Dr. Mario news had come out. So let's move on to listener feedback. And we got one this week from Cole via Facebook who wants to know, do you think Nintendo's going to jump back into the VR game?
I think they need to figure out VR first.
I think there will definitely be more Labo support in some form or fashion. I don't think they're going to put out the one VR title and then a couple of updates to games that aren't really made for VR. I think they're going to do something. There's one title sitting out there I would love for them to update for VR. You all know what it is. It's Mario Kart. That needs to happen.
I don't know that. It's doable, but I would find it to be probably nauseating at first.
Maybe.
Unless they went with the Namco Mario Kart VR arcade route,
so
where that one's already accounted for and been tested in public.
Yeah. But I do think they will do something with VR. Labo was a test to see kind of how people respond to it, or this is our VR attempt. There you go. I would love for them to put out. I know I'll never play them more than a couple of times, but I would love a Virtual Boy collection on Switch. If nothing else than just for the novelty factor of having those games available on a new system. So I would play that at least once, just to say I have. But then he also wants to know, what would it take to get you guys to play a Five Nights at Freddy's title, especially Five Nights VR?
First of all, I know this is from Cole, so he's expecting a very specific line said for this. So,
Okay.
just for Cole, I'll play FNAF, any FNAF title, for money.
Well,
that's a Rick and Morty reference that we use quite a bit.
I see.
Uh,
So, but to go along with that, though, I have said in the past that I would play one on a charity stream if we set like a, you know, an earnings goal. If we made so much, uh, the incentive would be to get me to play live on air a Five Nights at Freddy's game.
it'd be glorious to watch Tony screaming at the game.
I would do it if it was for a good cause. So
I actually have played one, so I mean, it's not that big a deal.
I've watched a few minutes of one being played, but I've never actually played one.
I've watched a lot of Markiplier playing it.
So if people made some donations to charity, I would play a Five Nights at Freddy's game.
If the right people asked for various reasons of wanting me to play this game, I'd say, all right, yeah, I'll play it. Don't expect like any fifth or sixth night stuff on there, because that's when you're just asking the impossible of me.
All right. Well, there you go. That will be the show for this week. So thank you, Ethan, for being here.
Oh man, he's gonna find a way to get us to play FNAF, and
He's going to try. If you want to reach out to us, we have tons of new ways to do so. You can email us at podcast@procegent.com. That's PROCGENT.com. You can send us a voicemail if you want by clicking on the voicemail link on the right side of the website. You can send us voicemails up to 90 seconds in length, and we'll play those on future episodes of the show and respond to the questions that you have. If you like what we do here, you can now support us on Patreon, patreon.com/pgint. Patreon supporters will get a video version of the podcast a day early. These will normally go out on Tuesdays. Patreon supporters will get them on Monday. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/progenint. Check out our YouTube channel that we've got and see the content we've got going on up there. And then we still do have the Facebook group where you can interact with us on a daily basis as well.